Okay, and if I'm correct, we are live. We're waiting for YouTube, and then we're going to start the recording for this special episode of Digital Classroom. So we're going to start the hard disk recording now, because we see YouTube and we see Facebook. Hey guys, and welcome to this special episode of Digital Classroom. And today is brought to you by X-rite. And I could say our friends from X-rite, because they literally are. Now, what is X-rite? X-rite is a company that's aimed at color management and color products. And color is one of the most important things, because when you do your photo shoot, you want your colors to be absolutely correct. And that's what we're going to talk about in the coming hour, or maybe more, depending on how many questions we get. So welcome to Digital Classroom, the special edition for X-rite. Okay guys, and we're back. Now, during the broadcast, you can actually leave comments on Facebook and on YouTube. I'm gonna be monitoring YouTube, and a week actually is gonna be monitoring Facebook. Now, I know you probably have a lot of questions, but let me run through everything for you, very structural. Let's first talk about color. Why is color important? Color evokes emotion. One of the things that is very, very important is that you have to realize that colors can give you the emotion of, for example, sadness or aggression. It can also show you stuff that's cool or not so cool. Now, what do I mean with this? Now, let's take a very simple example. If you are, let's say, 2 miles below sea level, I don't even know if there's something that deep, probably there is, but let's say you're 2 miles below sea level and you're in a concrete bunker. There are no windows, and you put on your flashlight. What color will the light be? Now, a lot of you guys will probably say, well, it's blue because you're on the water. In reality, it isn't blue. It's just the color of your flashlight because you're in a bunker without any windows. Now, why in The Abyss from, I believe it was James Cameron, all the colors are blue? So why did he do that? Very simple, to give you the illusion that you're on the water. Now look at, for example, Titanic. Titanic, awesome movie, of course, and it's very reddish. So you have a lot of red tones because it's old. Think about Saving Private Ryan with a lot of stuttering. Why? It looks old. And it looks a little bit more aggressive on the beach. So filmmakers are very, very handy with that kind of stuff. Now, what you can always do is, of course, make sure that you are in sync with your audience, that you know what people want to see. And that's where you start evoking emotion with color. Okay, so in a moment I'm going to go through some images that I shot and I'm going to explain to you what was my idea behind it, why did I choose certain colors, and I'm going to give you tips in Lightroom and in Photoshop on how you can create those colors yourself. And we're going to show you how the color checker works. So, a lot of stuff we want to do. So let's get starting. And let's first show you the setup I use. And one of the things that a lot of people ask me, like, okay, Frank, so in a normal studio setup, what do you use? Well, as you can see here, I'm using a Wacom Cintiq, and behind it is actually a BenQ monitor. Now, this is how I normally work when doing emails. So I have the Cintiq up as my monitor, and behind it is the BenQ. Now, why is the BenQ so incredibly important? And this is incredibly important because this is actually one of the things that a lot of people forget. Now, watch this. I'm going to set up the way that I'm normally retouching. I'm going to pick up my keyboard and I'm going to place that here. Because what I'm going to do is I'm going to drag the Cintiq forward, use this, and then go there. There we go. So now I have the setup that I normally use for retouching. I'm going to show you that from a different angle. So this is how I normally retouch. So we have the Cintiq over here and we have our BenQ over there. Now, oh, sorry, wrong camera. So why is this important? Now, the Cintiq is incredibly good in retouching. It's a touch display. It's a display that has a great digitizer, a Wacom, and it's awesome. The thing is, if you really look at your screen, you will see that there's a color difference. Now, you won't see it on video, but where I'm sitting, I can see a color difference. And the color difference isn't huge, but there is a color difference. And that's why I love doing my tinting and everything on the BenQ, and I actually do my retouching on the Wacom. So you will see me doing a lot like this. When I'm retouching, I'm really focusing on my screen, and then as soon as I start up my tinting program, for example, Alien Skin or DxO Film Pack, that's when I start looking at that monitor, and then I start using actually my Wacom as an Intuos tablet. So that's how I work. So let's see if you have any questions in between. Not yet. So we don't have any questions on YouTube. Do we have any questions on Facebook at the moment, Annemiek?
Only where the link is, Frank, so I'm trying.
Okay, only where the link is. Well, if you're already watching, so we already have that link up. Okay, so let's look at some images, and we're gonna go through them, and I'm gonna explain to you why I chose the stuff that I do. So of course we're gonna show you that in picture. There we go, and then we're gonna go to this camera, so you can see me talking to you. Yes, you. Oh, and by the way, I have to give a shout out to Norway, because they're gonna share this stream with their local photo club. So Norway rocks. By the way, I absolutely love the Scandinavian countries. We always go there with our RV at least once a year, and we drive. First we did Denmark, after that we did Sweden, and my dream is to do Norway, but that's a long drive. So Sweden, without any doubt, will be there again this summer, next summer. Okay, let's talk a little bit about color. Now, when you look at my images, and for example, an image like this, you see that there's a lot of red in here. Of course, there's a lot of smoke, but also a lot of reds. And the reason I love those reds is because it gives me an aggressive look. It's like, I'm gonna kill you. And of course, the reds help with that. So we did enhance the reds a little bit, of course. The other thing is, if you look at this image, it's a very, very nice, it's a cosplay image. And what you see is, it's fitting together, you know, that nice pink background with her pink hair, all the colors blend together. Now this one, also very important. But hey Frank, this is black and white. Black and white isn't color. Yes and no. Black and white indeed isn't color. But black and white is evoking an emotion. And black and white, if you do it correctly, is not just taking out the saturation. You work with color channels, you work with black and white modes, and not just pulling down the saturation. And I'm going to show you that in a moment, of course, live. But first, I want to do a little introduction about what I do and why. So this image, if I do it in color, for me, it doesn't work. This is like Bride of Frankenstein from those old Hammer movies. I love those movies, those 60s, 70s movies. They're campy as can be, but they really give that emotion. By the way, if you're into comics like I am, you will find out that the older comics like Creepy and Eerie and Tales from the Crypt, they're often black and white. And why are they black and white? Because you can see the art of the artist. They're more creepy in black and white. So as soon as you start adding color, does that take away those creepiness? Sometimes it does. So could you say that black and white is a color? You be the judge. But it does evoke emotion, and that's why color is important. So black and white is just a color. Now, why do I say it's just a color? Now, imagine this. You have a home theater, and you're looking at your projector, and you're seeing a beautiful black and white movie. And the black and white movie isn't black and white, but it's a little bit yellow. That means that your monitor, or in this case, your projector, isn't calibrated. If you watch a black and white movie, it should be black and white, and it shouldn't be bluish or yellowish or reddish. So also with black and white, you need to calibrate, and you need to make sure that your black and whites are correct. Okay, let me see. I also see here someone on YouTube with some questions. So here we go. Can you come to Finland, year 2090? Well, before 2090, we'll be in Finland, no problem. And hello, Ireland again. Okay, I often hear from my model that my photos are oversaturated, although I know that my camera settings were right and I did not do any tinting in Photoshop. What could be the problem? It could simply be, like somebody else answers you, that your monitor is okay, but your model's monitor is off. However, if a lot of models tell you this, do a print and check that. Or take your photo and just look at it on your iPhone or iPad and show that to the model. If the model still says they're oversaturated, maybe that's your style. And hello, Portugal. Let me see, would love for you to post your exact process step by step in a video. Okay, that's what we're gonna do today, actually. Editing photos from upload to finish. Yeah, that's a little bit more tricky. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about color. As you can see here, the hairs, really reddish, but not too much. Don't overdo it, don't underdo it. I can't explain that enough. It's a fine balance. And that's where color comes in. It's incredibly important to don't overdo that balance. Like you can see here, this is literally enhanced. This part here, the reds. I hope it shows up on the video. But I'm now going over the reds here. And that's enhanced. And why is it enhanced? Because I wanted that to jump out just a little bit more. Oh, Alexander also asked the question, did I miss the answer? No, you didn't miss the answer, I think. But you can always watch back, Alexander. Because I don't know which question you mean. Also here, reds. And here, reds in the dress and blue in the background. And here, reds and reds. And over here, there's some red in the image. Reds. Reds. And I don't mean reds the animals, but red the color. As you can see, a lot of the images I now pick out are red. And I want to show you something, and maybe Anne can get me the book from Caravaggio that's over there. Also here, a little bit of a red tint. And I want to show you something that's incredibly important if you want to know how I tick or what I do. So I'm going to go to full camera at the moment. Let me go and back to my main view. Now, this book, Caravaggio. And what is Caravaggio? Caravaggio is a painter, and it's an old painter. Now, when you go through the book, and of course this is copyrighted as can be, so I'm only going to show you very short, you will see that there's a lot of red in his images. And those images really stand out. So I hope I don't have any problems from copyright issues, so don't tell anybody I showed you guys. Okay, so those reds are incredibly eye-catching. You immediately see those. So he has a lot of subdued tones, and those reds really pop out. Now, when you look at my work, you see exactly the same thing. So how did I end up at Caravaggio? Very simple. I did a lot of reds in my images, and some people told me like, man, you have to look at Caravaggio. You're gonna love it. And I looked at it, and I was going like, this is awesome. You know that sometimes you just do something and you don't even know you're doing it. I will turn down the volume, by the way, just a little bit. I see I'm peaking. So you do something and you don't even know you're doing it. So that's why I found out Caravaggio. And this is also important for what I'm going to show you now. So let's go back to the screen again. There we go. And to the right camera. Okay. So very quickly, if we look at this shot, everywhere you see that this is enhanced, and Nadine is wearing a lot of the reds. All the other tones are a little bit subdued. So how do we get there? And this is where we're gonna start our workflow. But first we have a question. Annewiek.
Do you shoot in black and white, or do you convert it to black and white in your computer?
Okay, the question is, do I shoot in black and white or do I convert later on in the computer? It depends. If my client is there and I know for 100% sure it's going to be black and white, I set Capture One up or Lightroom with a profile for black and white. We make the profile together, and at that moment I see, okay, this is what we want, just leave it there, I'm going to shoot everything in black and white. Normally I don't know if something is going to be black and white. So what I do is I shoot it in color, and somehow in my mind I already calculated back to black and white. So it depends. It can be both. Okay, so we have another few questions. I find red to be very difficult to edit correctly. How often do you calibrate your monitor? We try to calibrate the monitor before every important session. That means in essence that we let the monitors, including the Wacom and the BenQ warm up for about half an hour. Then we do the calibration. And then we start editing. Now, there is something you have to know. In certain software versions of the X-rite software, you will end up with an incredibly red image after the first calibration. Don't worry, calibrate again. There is a trick you have to load before you start calibrating, a so-called flat profile. And I believe X-rite has them on their website. I don't know if it's still working, but the older versions had that problem. I didn't see it in a while, and I'm always at the latest version with the latest analyzers. But if you have an older analyzer, just check this. If you have this problem, so you calibrate, you look at it, it's way too red, you calibrate again and it's okay. Use the trick of loading a flat profile before you start calibrating. So after we calibrate, we do the retouching. Now always remember, your client doesn't necessarily have a calibrated monitor. Now you could say, why should I calibrate if my client doesn't have a calibrated monitor? Now this is something that is really something I stress to people. Your client is used to watching images on that non-calibrated monitor. If you calibrate, your images will look exactly the same as everything he's used to watching. If you don't calibrate, your images will stand out, mostly in a negative way. So make sure you calibrate. Okay, the other question. Could you show us please again how you can make a profile using a color checker and how you can use it every time? Yes, we're going to do that. My view is not sharp. Is it my screen, or if you mean on YouTube, it should be sharp because I'm watching here and it should be sharp. So try to refresh, or otherwise maybe you have a too slow internet. I'm very sorry, I can't help that from here, but we're recording it. If it's something in the stream, we will upload a video. So don't worry, after that it will be sharp. Okay, so the first things first. What do you have to do when you start? You have to use this one. It's not the new MacBook Pro, I'm very sorry. It is a color checker passport. And this is incredibly important. So what is it? If you open it up, you will see this. Now make sure that your model holds it in front of her face, and she doesn't do this. She holds it like this. And now you shoot the color checker passport straight on with as flat as possible lighting. So I'm lit from that side, so don't do it like this. So don't make the light fall off. Make sure that it's flat on the lighting. So that's great. Okay, so after you load your profile, make sure you do color balance. And you do color balance on one of those three little squares. Don't use these, because those are for something else. Where are they for? If you see the portrait, it means it has a little bit more reddish or magenta. And if you see the landscape, it has a little bit more green. I don't use that ever. This whole top part, gone. The lower part, that's where you create a profile. Okay, we're going to show you that in a moment, how you do that in Lightroom. But first, we're going to check if there are any questions. Annemiek, do you have questions over there?
No, not a lot of people watching through Facebook.
Okay, so we have no questions. Okay, so let's go and see what we can do with our color checker passport and how it works. Okay, so there we are. The first thing you have to do is, of course, shoot the thing. So we made some things on our hard drive and in the folder color checker. And as you can see, for example, we have some color checkers over here. Now I'm going to show you several options to do this. And I'm also going to show you when everything goes wrong, that you don't have to panic, that there's still a way to do this. Okay, so this is the color checker that I shot, and it's full screen. I already cropped it, so if I would say reset, you could actually see the rest of the frame. So let's go to the develop module and to the crop tool. And you can actually see that I already cropped this, and I always tell my models, make a funny face, otherwise the color checker won't work. Awesome. So there we go. Okay, now there is software connected to the color checker, and you get that for free. Free! Hey, I'm Dutch. So that free software you have to install on your hard drive. Now, as soon as it's on your hard drive, it installs a plugin inside of Lightroom. Now, plugins in Lightroom are absolutely awesome because you can export through that plugin. Now, some plugins are like Editing, like Alien Skin, MacFun, and DxO. This is a plugin that's actually an export plugin. So watch this. You simply go to File, Export, And then you find over here, you find your X-rite presets color checker passport. Let's call this X-rite demo. Okay. Is there any problem, Annemiek? What? Oh, I almost dropped my receiver or transmitter, so Annemiek is warning me, don't do that again. I'm actually gonna put this one here now, so that can't happen again. Sorry, guys. So, export as X-rite demo. Now, let's say that everything will go normally. Now, I will tell you already, we planned something. Press export. The following file already exists. Okay, just override it and press OK. In a normal working environment, this will run without any problem. And you will see something like this. So it's processing the profile. What it's now actually doing is it makes everything in the color checker fixed with the original colors. Now that sounds weird, so let me explain. But first, I have to restart Lightroom. Okay, so let's do that. So quit Lightroom. There we go, and start Lightroom up again. And if I'm correct, we're now in the color checker. There we go. Okay, so what does it do? It's very simple actually. If you look at this red square and you look, and let me see if I can show you that very quickly. And I can't in this view. Let's go to the develop module. Okay, here I can. So when you look up here, let me see if I can point it out with the pen. So if you look over here, upstairs in the histogram, you will actually see if I hover over red, you will see values 61.4, 31.2, 20.3 for red, green and blue. Now you have to realize that the color space is three-dimensional. So you have saturation, hue and luminance. Now this is just our RGB values, so it doesn't show you also the luminance. That's very important, but I don't want to make it too complicated. In essence, every single color has a three-dimensional space. Let's say somewhere, it belongs somewhere. In the computer, it knows where red is supposed to be, where green is supposed to be, and where blue, for example, is supposed to be, and all the other colors. So you have all these values for red, green, and blue, and the other colors. When the color checker is shot by, for example, a Canon or a Nikon or a Sony or an Olympus or whatever camera, those colors aren't in their exact positions. They're probably, let's say, 10% shifted towards yellow for green. Green is shifted a little bit towards cyan, or red is a little bit shifted. You get the idea, right? They're not in their place. So what the profile does, it actually creates an offset file, and that's called an ICC profile. In that profile, it actually tells the computer, if you see the red from this camera, it's not the red from this camera. You have to add and then it's the correct red. And that's what's done in the ICC profile. So if you want to do it really simple, you could see something like red is +1, -3, +3, -4. Like that. Or if you see green, you see the same thing. So it calculates that correct position. And then you get correct colors. Now again, you're watching on YouTube, so you don't see the full impact of what's happening now. So let's go down. In your develop, make sure you're in the develop module, and under here you can see that I have now a profile test. Let's create Adobe Standard. This is how you normally shoot your images. That's interesting, right? Now look at the reds. The reds are a little bit undersaturated. I don't really like the whole look of the image. Now what you of course can do is go up, make sure that you're in the right color balance. So take your color picker, select this. Yeah, I'm not overly satisfied with this color. Now go down and select the proper profile. So go to X-rite demo. Kabam! There we go. This is it. Now it looks way more saturated. And now, and this is important, and this is something that somebody asked me in the pre-seminar question, the images are still not correct. Correct, because there's one final step you really have to do. Take your color picker again, and now that the profile is active, Press again. And you saw it change just a little bit. Let's do that again. Edit, undo white balance. Take the white balance picker and do it. You see there's a slight shift. And now you're ready to select all the images you shot with that color checker and sync them, and now you have the correct color. So, let me switch back to view camera, because that's always a little bit easier to talk with you guys. Okay, so how often do you shoot a color checker? Do you shoot it once for every light source? Do you shoot it once for every camera? Do you shoot it for every set? If you're lazy, and most people are, you have to realize that this is actually for your camera. It's not for your light source, it's not for whatever. Your light source is often the color balance. This is for your camera. So if you're really lazy, what you could do is just shoot one for your camera and that's it. This is how a lot of programs work, like Capture One, Lightroom. If you use the embedded profiling, for example, if you're shooting with the Sony a7R II, you use the profile for the a7R II. And that's okay, it works. It's pretty good, it's better than Adobe Standard. But if you're smart and you saw how easy it is to do these color checkers, make sure you shoot it before every change of light setup. If you don't use it, no problem at all. It's only one image and you can always create it if you need it. Especially shoot it when you're outside. Are there always situations where you never should use a color checker? Yes. For example, if you're shooting with gels, or if you're shooting a sunset. Now let's talk about gels. If you shoot gels, should you use a color checker? Yes. But you shoot the color checker under normal lighting. So you take away all the gels, you do the color checker, you take away the color checker, and then you add the gels. The reason for this is very simple. The gels have a certain color. If you would choose the color, if you shoot the color checker with the gels on, you neutralize that color, so you're actually shooting with a normal strobe. If you don't do the color checker and you add the gels later, and you just go like, well, we'll see, then you can never recreate that same red. And this is where it's about. It's about recreating stuff. You don't need this if you just go like, okay, I'm just gonna shoot something and I never wanna create that again. Then you don't need the color checker. It's better if you do, you get better colors, but you don't need it. But if you want to create something again later on, these are vital, because at that point you can. So take all the gels off, shoot the color checker, then put the gels on. The sunset, don't use the color checker. For the very simple reason, if you shoot the sunset, what's the most beautiful part of the sunset? All those beautiful hues of color. If you take the color checker, you neutralize them. For me, it goes the same with tungsten lighting, fluorescent lighting. If we use something like that, lume cubes, I don't use the color checker because I want to keep that warm tint or the bluish tint. Okay, let's do some questions very quickly. Let me see. Again, done wrong. I make upper portrait white setups. I don't know that question. Yanni, if you can repeat that, that would be very nice. Let me see. After you create a profile and use it on a shoot, do you leave it in your list or can it be deleted? If I'm done, the profiles get deleted for the very simple reason, otherwise my hard drive gets, it doesn't get full, that's ridiculous. They're only very small, but the list gets very, very long. So I create the profiles, and for example, I call it N a week red dress, N a week blue dress, and I will keep it in there for, let's say, a week, and then I delete everything and we create them again. Is the color checker guaranteed high color rendering index CRI or even with light or Allegron? They're pretty good, let's put it that way. I don't know about CRIs and how well they behave. You also have to realize that these are only good for about a year and a half, and after that you can just replace them. It's same with color analyzers. They're good for about 2 years and then you have to replace them. So that's something you have to ask X-rite. I don't know about CRI values. They're on their website probably. Okay, let me see. Should you set camera calibration for every picture before you calibrate all pictures? Let me see if I get that right. Should you set the camera calibration for every picture if Sony before you calibrate all pictures? Okay, I think what you mean is if I do the color checker passport, how do I get them to the other pictures? It doesn't matter on what color setting you shoot because you're shooting RAW. So in RAW you can go anyway. And the thing is, if you have one file that is correctly done with the color checker, so that's the one with the color checker itself, you select all the images that were shot with that same light setup, that same look, and then you sync that, and then everything should be in order. Let me see. Should you use a color checker if you do a product shot? Whenever, whatever you shoot, use a color checker. If you need proper colors, or if you just want your colors to pop the right way.
Say hi, Mom.
Hi, Mom. Oh, my mother is watching?
Yeah.
Hey, Mom. Love you. Okay, so, okay, I see what Johnny means. He uses the portraits settings up here. So when you go here, you have the portrait settings. Don't use those. Those are not correctly for your color view, unless, of course, you use it on all. And I'm going to tell you a secret. Don't tell anybody else. This is just between you and me, right? So all the other people, don't disconnect, but just go like, wah, wah, wah. If you really mess up and you didn't bring a color checker and you go like, oh my God, I don't know what I did and I don't know how I get this right. Balance on something that is approximately gray. Copy that setting to all the images you shot. All images are wrong, but if all images are wrong, it's a style. So if you didn't bring your color checker, make sure you copy the wrong profile to all the images. Don't go in every image and try to correct the colors. That will never work because that will look just fake. So do one correctly and copy that setting to everything. And just tell them, yeah, that's a new style I'm working on. Make sure you can recreate it. Okay, when I change the lens during the same shoot, do I need to use the color checker again? I think you would probably more go for color balance than color checker, because the color checker creates the color profiling. But the best thing to do is shoot the color checker with every lens, just in a test setup, and just see if there's a difference between. I can tell you, I tested it once on some Sony lenses, and overall they were pretty much the same. Of course, there can always be a little bit of difference, but overall they're pretty much the same. Color balance can be another issue, by the way. Some of the older Minolta lenses, they really are a little bit more reddish, and some are a little bit more bluish, but by just selecting that gray square, that should be okay. Okay, most of us don't have calibrated monitors. Is there any way to calibrate with the camera? Most of us don't have calibrated monitors. Change that. Start calibrating your monitors. See me squeezing my eyes? I'm angry at you. I'm getting really angry at you. Nah, I'm just kidding. Don't start with, I don't calibrate my monitor. It's the first thing you do. You're a photographer. It's your work. It's the way that people perceive your images. Please calibrate. It's the worst thing you can not spend your money on. Go to Starbucks a few times less and get a color analyzer. They're below $100, so make sure you do that. And don't get any excuses like, I can't get a color analyzer. Just order them online. They're really, really important. Okay, why is the color checker only good for 1 year? Are the colors fading? Yes, every color will fade. That's also why a color analyzer uses gels inside, and they're organic, and that means that they decay over time. They don't really decay, but the colors will get less accurate. So when you have a spectrometer, spectrum analyzer, you have to recalibrate that once every while. And with a normal analyzer, we call those 3 stimulus meters, which have the gels inside. You can also recalibrate those, but most of the time it's better to just spend about $100 and get a new one. Okay, no more questions, that's great. So let's go. Let's see if something goes wrong and what you can do then with your color checker passport. So let's switch back to that setting and this camera. So we really have a cool setup at the moment with the Roland switcher and Wirecast. I can almost do it alone. So that's really awesome. Okay, let's take this one. Okay, so as you can see, this one doesn't really look nice. It's, yeah, no. Okay, let's see, File, Export, Color Checker Passport. And let's call this Testing. Okay, Enter, Export. Okay, let's see what works. And if it works. Now, of course, it will work now. We created this one to not work, so don't worry if it doesn't work, worry if it does work. Okay, it's processing. It's looking, because this one is actually, the profile could not be calibrated. Oh my, that's terrible. The application could not auto-detect the question marks, the crop marks. Okay. This will happen with certain cameras, especially with higher resolutions, like the 100 megapixel camera, we never were able to create a color profile. The 80 megapixels, never worked. The 60, sometimes, sometimes not. 50, hit and miss. The 42 megapixel Sony, sometimes it works, most of the time it doesn't. No problem at all. Watch this. You go to File and you go to Export. Now what you have to realize is there's another app, and that's also installed, but we have to get in that app. So make sure you make that crops. Now you go to, and I already created one for this, so let me find that color checker passport DNG. Okay, you go to your desktop. Let me go to the desktop. Let me just go straight on the desktop. I think that's wiser for now. Okay, so we go to the desktop. And we're gonna do DNG, and make sure you select this camera raw 4.1 and later. Don't use the other ones, use this one. And do a full size JPEG review. Now do export. Okay, it's exporting one file, that's done. We're gonna close Lightroom. And we're gonna start up the software from X-rite. Color checker passport. Okay, now we have this file over here. I'm going to drag this one in. Now it's loading the image. And I have to be honest, we really messed this file up, so it could be that it doesn't work now too. Because with this software, the app outside is more stable, but sometimes it's a problem. Okay, so it can't find anything. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. So now I have these little squares. There we go, just make sure that it fits. Okay, and I'll press Create Profile. Okay, testing, and press OK. Normally this will work for the higher resolutions. Again, we messed this file up a lot, so sometimes it doesn't work at all. And let me see. Okay, in this case, yes, it worked. Okay, great. So this was a really messed up file. So in other words, if you have that high resolution camera, our opinion, our experience is that this is 90% foolproof. There were some files that we still couldn't create, but often those were files with a little bit of shadow over the color checker. Normally the external file works great. And this is something that I'm still working on with X-rite to show them, like, okay, make this work inside of Lightroom, and somehow it still doesn't. But in all essence, it's not that much more work, so, well, why not? Okay, so this is that file, right? Now, see how ugly it is. Now go down to Develop, Adobe Standard, and go to Testing. Now look at the difference, boom. Now go all the way up, take your treatment, and there we go. Now we have the color checker passport in perfect order. So this is how you do it. Now let's go back to Adobe Standard one more time so you can really see the difference. So let's do Adobe Standard. There we go. You see that this is way more flat. Now the thing is, some people will say like, okay, Frank, I know that whole thing about the color checker passport. You're not fooling me, mister. You can just raise the vibrance or saturation. Yeah, and then as soon as you start doing it, you will pretty much find out that I'm not fooling with you guys. It's not doable. And I will tell you why. And it's actually very, very simple to see. Look very closely to all the squares. So, do you see them all? I'm going to go down, and we're going to switch from Adobe Standard to Testing. Now look at all the squares. There we go. You see that only a few changed. Well, they changed all, but only a few changed a lot. So that means that there's an imbalance. If you use vibrance or saturation, you're actually working with that imbalance, meaning you will shift that color triangle. That will never work. So if you create that profile with the correct software, in this case the X-rite Color Checker Passport, you're done. Now it works. Okay, let's give you some cool tips, because this is way more than enough about the Color Checker Passport, I think. So let's see how we can create those stunning images. Well, stunning, you know what I mean. So let's go down and let's go to some raw files. Let's see what we can do. So let's choose some that has really nice colors. Like, for example, I know we always do some stuff with Nadine. Okay. So this is a very simple example of which we done during a workshop A to Z in Dordrecht. Okay, let's take this one. Okay, let's go into Photoshop. Now, of course, normally we do skin work first, and Nadine has great skin because the skin is real even. The, how do you call that? The pores aren't really a problem in a model. The main problem is skin unevenness, like if they have yellow patches or green, they can be green in the skin, or blue, that's the biggest problem. So normally, these things, don't worry at all. So we're gonna go to 100%. And the first thing I always do is take the healing brush and just go over the skin. Now again, our cameras are pretty sharp. They have 42 megapixels. And trust me, don't ever show this to a model, because she will go like, is that my skin? It's the same thing as looking under a microscope. It will look terrible. Even a model with perfect skin that looks perfect, if you blow it up this big, oh my, she will get a heart attack. So let's take this out a little bit. I'm just doing some, let me call this, I'm doing some preliminary work. I hope that's the right expression. Okay, there we go. Gonna do this a little bit here. Okay. Normally I do it a little bit better, but you get the idea, right? We're using the healing brush to do the pre-work. Okay. Now what you can do is, if you don't want to spend any money on software, which I think you should, is you can use the clone tool and you can create a new layer. So do a new empty layer. Okay. Take the clone tool on a very low opacity, for example 10 or 12%. It's not that important, but let's say 10%. Okay. Now make sure that you have all layers selected, so sample all layers. Now you select something here and you just very slowly massage all the problems away, as you can see here. Of course you can do frequency separation, you can do dots and burn, and well, there are so many ways to do skin. But this is, I think, the quickest and the cheapest way to do it, because all the options are already in Photoshop. And because you're using such a low opacity, you're actually just flattening the skin tones. So you're blending them all together. It's not my way, but it's a cheap way. What you actually did is this. As you can see, you hardly see anything unless I turn it on and off. So, pretty cool, right? So, let's leave it for now. And of course, then you can do a flatten image, which I always do, and then use the healing brush again. What I like to do is actually use a filter, and it's called Imagenomic Portraiture. This is without a doubt my favorite filter, and I know a lot of people use this. It's absolutely awesome. I think it's one of the best skin filters out there. And you just leave it on the normal settings. What you do is you select some skin tones. And it will look way worse, by the way, on YouTube, because YouTube already compresses. And I'm really sloppy now with my retouching, because it's not about skin work, but I want to show you anyway how we do it. Okay, now make sure, because it's now on the whole image, you do a layer mask. Just do a layer mask, hide all. So now it will take the effect out. You take a brush with white paint, and you only paint it in the areas where you want the effect. So don't overdo it again. You don't want a Barbie doll, you just want a nice looking model. And she already looks nice, but you know what I mean, right? We want the skin to be a little bit more nice. Okay, layer flatten image. I always flatten my images, and I know a lot of people give me trouble about it. Like, why do you flatten your images? Are you nuts? Maybe I am, but It's still not diagnosed. No, I'm just kidding with you guys. I flatten my image because I know exactly my workflow. So if I do something wrong, I will just start over because normally my images are retouched within 5 minutes. If I keep all these layers in layer folders and whatever, and I store it as a TIFF or PSD, my hard drives will blow up. I will have so much space on my hard drives that's used by images. It's not funny anymore. So when I do a real complicated, let's say, retouch with compositing, or when I draw in Manga Studio or Photoshop, then I will save all my layers because I always want to go back, for example, to the sketch to see what I've done, or to the coloring. But normally with images, it's it's almost routine, you know. The first time I did Photoshop, I saved everything in layers. Nowadays, yeah, I know what I'm doing, so I always do a flatten image. Okay, so let's do some final stuff here, 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 and yeah. Okay, there we go. Okay, so now let's enhance those reds. I'm gonna give you a few tips. The first thing you have to realize is you can do whatever you want in Photoshop in layers. So let's do this. Layer, and just bump up the saturation. Image, adjustments, saturation. Okay, so bump it up. There we go. A little bit too much, but okay. Press OK. Oh, not go to 100%, are you nuts? Go here, press OK. Okay, do a layer, layer mask, hide all. Take your brush again and just paint it in. Awesome. There we go. Okay, that's one way. Not the best way. Okay, edit, undo. Let's delete this file. Okay, let's do another one. This one is a little bit more subtle and you don't have to do a lot of cloning, a lot of masking. You go to Image, Adjustments, and you go to Use Saturation. Now you go to, let's say, the yellow channel. I want to do reds, but I want to show you how it works. So you take the yellow channel. Now what you do is you select a color. And now you will immediately see that it says reds 2. And now you can pump up that saturation and it will only do those reds. Now if it's a little bit too much, you can actually here tone it down. So you can make that selection a little bit more only on her head. So you see this? Now hardly any of the skin is taken in. So this is a way better way. You can even, watch this, change the color of the reds. Now with the reds you have a huge problem because the skin also contains reds. But you know what I mean, right? Now you can use a layer mask and now she's actually wearing green. So that's pretty cool. Okay, are there any other ways? Yes, of course. So another way to increase those reds is actually over here, where you can go into your dots tool, but now go to the sponge tool. And you see here an option called Saturate. And now you can actually paint it in. There we go. Also another option. Okay, let's take that out. Is there another option? Yes. You can go, for example, to Layer, Adjustment Layer, and go to Black and White Adjustment Layer. Bear with me. Now, this is an interesting adjustment layer, but let's make this adjustment layer, let's say Lumosity, and press OK. As you can see, not much happens, right? Now watch this. I can actually now change everything I want and really fine-tune it. Because what I'm actually doing is I'm using a black and white adjustment layer. And that's what we're going to talk about now, using black and white in your images. So let's close this and don't save it. And let's go back into Lightroom because I don't even need Photoshop for this. Oh, by the way, I do want to show you a few things that's really cool. I'm going to switch over to my other camera, my high cam, and full screen. Okay. A lot of people have asked me, oh, let me be a little bit more direct with you guys. There we are. So, oh, don't destroy my studio, Frank. Okay, let's take a sip. Oh, one moment. We have a lot of questions. are you to show us how to calibrate the light meter with a color checker? If that was possible. Now, I can't do that today, but the essence is very simple. You shoot the color checker, 3 stops over, 3 stops under, 1 in the center. You run it through the software and you're done. We actually did a video on it, and let me see very quickly. And this video you absolutely have to buy. You have to. Trust me, if you're into light meters, this is the video. It's called Mastering the Model Shoot 1, all about the light meter. It's a jam-packed video with a lot of information about the light meter, so make sure you check that out online. And the pricing is always very good with us. We try to keep the prices low. Okay, is there a difference in how you should use the color checker if you use different backgrounds, black, white, blue, or for example, Lestolite? Remember that every color reflects. That means that if you use a red background, it will reflect on your model. So if you want absolutely no color cast, use the color checker with every single setup. If she's wearing a red dress, it will reflect back on her skin. So yes, every single time you shoot, use the color checker. Okay, where can I find? Can you put the link and name again so I can find it? The softened skin is portraiture, imagenomic portraiture. Let me see, Alien Skin. Now, Alien Skin is actually a tinting program. It's not to soften the skin. The softened skin is portraiture from imagenomic. Okay, so what did I want to tell?
You had a lot of questions, and I just wanted to let you know that Calibration shared this video too.
Oh, cool. Our friends from Calibration are sharing this video, so now it's getting a lot of reviews. I don't know what I wanted to tell you guys. That's ridiculous. Anyway, it will come back to me. So, talk about black and white. So, black and white is, of course, done with a color mixer. So, we're going to look into Lightroom. That's bugging me. Oh, now I know. So, for video, we also have a color checker. Watch this. It's a bigger one. And we always use this one to actually set the color balance for our camera. So, camera 1 looks the same as camera 2 and looks the same as camera 3. And this is very important, and we always also use this when we do video, because on this you can use zebras and you make sure that all the exposures are correct. So camera 1 looks the same as camera 2 and 3. And because we're using often 3 or 4 cameras, sometimes 5, we want to make sure that everything looks the same. And that's also why we use the Letco panels, because they give us great light quality. Now I remember what I wanted to tell you guys. During the years, a lot of things have changed in computer land. One of the things that has literally mesmerized me over the years is that I love working on a tablet, like a Cintiq. So we're going to do in Behind the Closed Doors, we're going to do a whole video very soon about my struggle, my adventure, am I And we're back. No, it was not top secret. Haha. Okay, so I don't know where the audio quit, but let me do it again because it was very dramatic. So over the years, a lot of things have changed. And what I love to do is retouch on the go. So I would love in the field to have a solution where I have my computer with me, where I have my laptop, where I shoot tethered to the laptop, where I can do whatever I want. And if somebody asks me, hey Frank, how can I retouch this? I can just take a pen and show them. That's awesome. So The Wacom Mobile Studio Pro is going to be our new laptop. And that means I have to start working with Windows. So in the coming weeks, you will see me struggle. You will see me burst out in tears and fear and angry. Well, probably not. It will be seamless. Now, a few people have asked me, like, okay, Frank, so why not the Surface Pro from Microsoft? It's an awesome device, but there's one thing missing, and that's why I wanted to use the HiCam, and that's why a lot of people have asked me this. Now, normally I wouldn't do this in a seminar, but I just wanted to squeeze it in very quickly. A lot of people have asked me this, why not the Surface and why not another solution? Now, watch this. This is the one why you should use Wacom. All my shortcuts, like space, command, control, 100%, full screen, levels, curves, brush size, are all under hard keys. So that's something that's really important if you want to do that retouching. And that's why I can retouch so fast, because I'm actually using those keys very fast. So that's cool. Okay, let me see if there are any other questions. Top secret, no audio. Audio is back. Do you still use Capture One? Can you tell me how to use the color checker in Capture One? They say it needs to be an ICC profile and not a DNG profile. I still use Capture One. I love Capture One. Capture One is where we shoot, where we do tethering, where we do our raw development. Lightroom is where our images live. And when I do street and travel photography, Lightroom is actually where I use DxO optics to have a whole workflow. And if you want, we can show that another time in an in-between episode of Digital Classroom. But DxO optics is used for our whole workflow for that kind of stuff. So Lightroom, where our images live, where we use smart albums, where we use our tagging and whatsoever. Capture One is where I actually do my raw converting. Now, color checkers in Capture One. If Phase One is listening, please, I beg you, make the color checker work in Capture One. Now, they will probably not do it because it's an ICC profile-based system. In all honesty, Lightroom is awesome, but the profiles delivered with Lightroom aren't that good. They're not very color correct, and they're okay. So you need a color checker. In Capture One, they're very, very good. So let's put it this way. This is the profile with your color checker passport. This is Capture One, this is Lightroom. So this is Lightroom with the color checker passport in color. This is Capture One without color checker passport. And this is Lightroom without the color checker passport. So Lightroom has the edge in color if it comes to the color checker passport. But there's way more for a raw developer. And I don't want to go into that today, but very short. Capture One just renders the files a little bit more round, and it's way faster to zoom in. So that's why we use Capture One a lot. Let me see. I love Capture One too. I really want color managed. There is a color managed workflow in Capture One. You just can't use the color checker passport. Did Frank say he's going to start using the Microsoft Surface Studio? No, James, don't twist my words. I'm a Mac user. I'm going to stay with Mac for now. By the way, tonight there will be a new blog post out with the setup of the future. I'm going to add a little bit of delay for added drama. So that's going to be a very interesting read, I think. But for mobile device, I'm going to go to the Wacom Mobile Studio Pro. It's a tablet from Wacom, 16-inch, 4K display. Absolutely awesome. Well, I have to wait for it, but we're going to get one in the next 2 weeks. Thank God, no Microsoft. There's nothing wrong with Microsoft. They're very cool guys. It's just that I'm very much used to the Apple Echo system. Okay, Apple is going away from the pros and Microsoft is that way again. Okay, I don't want to go into that today because I already did a lot of stuff. You need a dongle for the power cord. Okay, come on, guys. Don't go there. We have a lot of stuff on that online. Let's keep it to X-rite. Okay, so well, we can always have a little bit of fun, you know. Okay, let's switch back to my screen again and the right camera. There we go. Okay, so let's go to, what is this? This is my camera raw. I don't need that over here. Let's do that away and let's close Photoshop. Okay, let's go straight into Lightroom. And Anneweek is here. Hello, Anneweek. I dropped my audio again. I'm just like a child. If you leave something there, I will drop it. Okay, let's go to an image of Nadine. Let's take another one. Okay, let's go in this series for one that has a little bit of drama. There we go. Okay, so let's say this is my image. So how can we create something that's really nice? So let's go to the develop module. And let's start out, and we have a lot of glare on this moment, so I have to watch out. There we go. Okay, add a little bit of shadows, because we know with the black and white conversion I'm going to lose those shadows. And let's tone down. Okay, there we go. Now, don't just do this. Doom. Now we have black and white. Yes, you have black and white, but no, it's not black and white. This is not black and white. This is just a color image without color. So go down and go to black and white. Now this is a black and white image. Now watch this. By changing the reds, you can actually enhance the skin. Changing the orange, the hairs. Now isn't that freaky? So don't do that. Okay, add a little bit of yellow. See what's happening? So everything has its channel. There's not a lot of green, there's not a lot of aqua, and there's some blues. And blues always make it a little bit more drama. That's why it's called the blues. Let's give it a little bit of purple. There we go. And maybe a little bit of magenta and reds. Okay, so now we have our base. Now what you do, and I always love that in black and white, make it like an S-curve. So go here and move that up. There we go. Add a lot of contrast. Tame those highlights. Add a little bit of exposure. Tame those highlights. Not too much, but only on the face. And that's why we use the adjustment brush. And now just go over her face and tame the highlights. And there we go. And now you have a way stronger black and white image. Just very simple from Lightroom. I want to show you some more. Are you up for some more tricks? Yes, of course you are. Okay, let's go with this image, and I'm going to use, and this is pretty cool if you want to see, I'm going to use this button, and I'm going to go straight into Photoshop. So we programmed all the keys in the Wacom to go straight into Photoshop, to do all the stuff in Photoshop, like, for example, if I want to go to 100%, if I want to go to full screen. So we programmed all those keys, and that makes it really fast to edit. So for example, I have my saturation, I have my curves, and that's something that I really like. I like to work with those hard keys. Okay, so we have these colors here, and I want those reds to pop more. Now I already showed you how to do it, and I want to show another technique that works too, but first let's do the technique that you already saw. So we're going to use the dodge tool to make that saturation really pop. There we go. Now you see me looking at my BenQ, right? So I'm retouching on the Wacom, but I'm looking at the BenQ because I want to make sure that I don't overdo it. And I'm 100% overdoing it now, but that's on purpose, because I want to show you in a moment what you can do if you overdone it. There we go. So let's say I'm looking at this screen. On this screen, in all honesty, it still looks pretty good. If I look at that screen, it looks horrendous. Let's see if that translates back to you guys over there. I don't think so. No, I don't think you can see that problem. No. Okay, so let's go back to my camera. There we go. The cameras don't pick it up. It's a subtle difference, but it's, for me, a huge difference. So on the Wacom, I was pretty much overdoing it. Now I look at the BenQ and I go like, oops, I overdone it. What you now can do is you can, of course, use the history brush on a very low setting, let's say 13%, and take it out. Some people will say, hey Frank, can't you use the sponge tool on desaturate? Yes, you can. The problem is, if you, by example, by accident, hit her face, you can actually desaturate the face. Now I can use a very big brush. Because I overdone it, I can use a very big brush and the face will never get desaturated because it's the history brush. So the only thing that will happen is the face will get back to its original state. So there we go. So I'm using the history brush now, I'm looking at my BenQ, and now I have the perfect color. This is what I want. Now when I look at the Wacom, I would say maybe a little bit more. And this is why it's so important to have proper knowledge of color. So There we go. So one more tip for this. Let's create an empty layer. There we go. On an empty layer, you can do fun stuff. You can copy stuff there and you can make something work. Let's go back to the background. Now, one of the important things about color, what you have to realize is that we only see 3 colors, red, green, and blue. So in Photoshop, you also have those 3 colors, red, green, and blue. Now, those are found under the channels, which you can find here. Now, don't worry if you have them in a different place. With the new Photoshop, you can create your own menus. Now, because I'm an educator, I leave those menus in their original place most of the time, but sometimes I also drag them around. Now, as you can see here, we have a red channel, a green channel, look at the hairs, and a blue channel, oh my. Let's take the red channel. The red channel is always cool for skin. It really gives that skin that nice glow, like you saw also in the black and white conversion. And this is also, by the way, where you can go wrong with makeup. So if you shoot black and white, make sure that when the lips are red, you don't shoot it that the lips become black. So you have to do something with red filters, or you have to counteract that effect in Photoshop. And that's the cool thing about nowadays. We don't use filters anymore, we use those filters afterwards. So in the old days, when you choose the wrong filter, it could be that if you shot black and white, the lips would be totally black or the skin didn't look nice. Nowadays, you can just do that after the fact. So let's take the red channel. And now you do the following. Command A, select all. Command C, copy. Go to the top layer, the empty layer, and do Command V. That means past. Now go here from normal, go into soft light. As you can see, I get a really nice dense image. Almost like, I always call this my Vogue look. And now by lowering the opacity and slightly raising it, this is how we get that real intense reds. So now that I know that I got that really intense reds over here and I don't want it on the rest of the image, layer, layer mask, hide all. And now the only thing I have to do is paint the effect in on the hairs. And as you can see, you can do a lot with dodge and burn, but this technique is just way faster and it works much, much better. And there we go. Okay, so that's enough retouching. So let's give you some more tips. Now I'm going to switch to that camera again and to full screen. And then we're going to do some questions, of course. Okay, so how did I find this out about copying that red channel? It's actually not that hard. Now, our language of photography is lighting and is color. One of the most important things is that you understand your language, because that's how we talk, that's how we communicate. If you know how lighting works and if you know how color works, you know it's very, very simple to understand that the red channel will affect the skin, that the blue channel will affect other areas. And at that point, you look at Photoshop and you just go, okay, I want this effect, so let's copy that red channel. So I can't stress enough to people to really, really learn their photography. And a lot of people just pick up their camera, start shooting, don't use color checkers, don't use color analyzers, because they just go like, yeah, it doesn't need it. Trust me, you really do. So let me see if there are any questions. Then you adjust colors. Lost you for a second. Okay, if you lost the whole procedure, just look it back on YouTube. I think that's better. Command D, E. I don't know, could be. The fun thing about Photoshop, you know, I always tell people I'm not a great Photoshopper. I know what I can do with colors and I know what I can do in my workflow, but sometimes people show me something and I go like, that's freaking awesome. I never thought of that. And that's the cool thing. Photoshop has so many options. And the best thing is keep learning from each other. I see so many educators out there, and especially on YouTube, and you see the comments and somebody comments like, okay, you could also do it like this. It's like they start to defend themselves like, oh no, I do it like, don't. There's so many options. And I remember that one time, one of my interns actually told me, you know that you can press that button and it does it? And I was going like, ooh, that saves me time. And later on, she came up to me and she said, I hope you didn't mind. I said, I love it because it saves me time. So always be open for that kind of stuff. And you never know everything about Photoshop. I know a lot of people that know a lot of Photoshop, but they don't know everything because that's impossible. I even think the guys that wrote Photoshop don't know everything about Photoshop. Are you ever using Nik software? I'm going to go to that in a moment. Is SilverFX Pro still the best plugin to change the photo into black and white? I'm gonna go to that somewhere within a minute. Apply image to layer mask with red channel and use curve on mask. Should work fine. You get even more intense colors. Many ways to roam, that's it. Would you use a color checker for micro photography? Yes, for micro photography? Macro photography probably. Yes, without a doubt, if you want the colors to be correct. From Lightroom directly to Photoshop is Command E. Oh, that's what you mean. Yes, without any doubt. But I programmed that under the Wacom. In a moment I'm going to show you how easy that is. Sorry, I use a lot of shortcuts. Yes, I want to show you that. So one moment for me, bear with me. Okay, about Nik. I absolutely love Nik. I like Google, I love Nik. But Nik, I think, is at a dead end. And in all honesty, I don't know what to say. Nik was, a few years ago, was without a doubt on every professional's computer. If you didn't have Nik, you go like, what? You don't have Nik? It's only 300 euros. Then it went 150, and then it went free. And the moment it went free, I thought, this is the end of Nik. Now, also when you look at the development of Nik, not a lot of things have changed. Now, when you look at a company like McFun or Alien Skin, they keep improving their software constantly. And Nik is a little bit at a standstill. And I'm afraid that now that it's free, it's the end of Nik. So keep using it until it stops working, and then switch over. Best black and white plugin at the moment, 3. Tonality from McFun, absolutely awesome. Alien Skin Exposure 2, wow. DxO Film Pack. If you want the real organic looks, DxO Film Pack. If you want to go all out and you want to freak out with everything's possible, Alien Skin Exposure. If you still have Nik and it's free, SilverFX, why not? Let me see, sorry I used a lot of short. Okay, it is sad to say, but I agree, Nik is soon dead. They removed preset pages for all Nik apps. There you go, you see? It's dumbing down the software, it won't work anywhere. Okay, the funniest thing I heard was Scott Kelby saying, oh, that's a trick I learned from Frank Doorhoff, so he's even learning some new Photoshop trick. You know, Johan, that's the cool thing. When you are with a group of photographers that are educators, and there are no egos, and I can tell you from the bottom of my heart, Scott Kelby is without a doubt one of the most nicest people in the industry. And you hear that a lot, and it's not because I work for Scott. I'm a freelancer, so he hires me for projects, he hires me for Photoshop World, and I'm honored to be there. And that's also why I don't do stuff like Creative Life or other stuff, because I find that I'm loyal to Kelby One. And the coolest thing about Kelby is actually that when he sees something that he doesn't know, he's the first one to go absolutely berserk. I'm like, oh, this is awesome. I was once in his office and I showed him a trick that I used, and I said, I don't know, I'm not a good retoucher, but I have to have some tricks in the book, and I showed him something and he was going like, oh, can you do that again? And when I'm in his class, a lot of the stuff I know, of course, but sometimes you see something and that's so cool. Do remember, there are many, many ways to do something in Photoshop, and often they're not officially supported. So we are just doing it, we're inventing it. Every day we're inventing new stuff. As soon as an educator closes his ears for other stuff, that's where they go wrong. We have to inspire each other, and that's why I love this educational platform, and that's why I love doing these broadcasts, because I love to inspire people. Okay. Oh yeah, I promised to show you something. Now, you know shortcuts, right? And shortcuts are absolutely awesome because it can really speed up your workflow. Now, we talked about the Surface Pro in the past, so really cool. Now imagine this, you have this, where's my pen? And a week, where's my pen? Let me see where my pen is. Uh-oh. Ah, there we go, in its holder. That's where the pen is supposed to be. Where's my glasses? On my nose. So imagine having a tablet like this, and you're working and you don't have any hard keys. You only have these 2 buttons on the pen. And that's for me the biggest problem that we had with the Microsoft Surface Pro. And I'm sorry I'm going there, guys. It's still the X-rite webinar, but we're way over time anyway. And it's a question, so I love to answer those questions. And you only have these 2 buttons. So how do you program them? Command and Shift. And that's it. So working on something like a Surface Pro, awesome, but you need a keyboard. Takes away a little bit of the effect of having a tablet, right? Because if you need a keyboard, why use a tablet? Then you can also use a laptop and a tablet and whatever. So there is some software running on the Windows that I actually tested that creates a small area over here with shortcuts keys. So you can program them, and because it's a touch display, it works. And it works pretty well. With the Wacom, you get these remotes. And with the Wacom Mobile Studio Pros, you actually get these hard keys over here. And what you can do, and a lot of people don't know this, I'm going to go full screen again. One moment, guys. There we go. I'm going to go to the top cam. No, that's not a nice view. Let's stay there. Okay, so when you go to your Wacom settings, and you can actually go to your remote or your keys, this works on all your Wacom stuff, and you can program it per application. So for Adobe Lightroom, I actually have a keystroke here, and it's a keystroke, and it's Command E, go to Photoshop. Go to Photoshop. In Capture One, I have the same keystroke, only in this case it's Command D, but it's under the same button. So if I want to go to Photoshop from Capture One, I press the same button as I do in Lightroom. It's a different keystroke, but I only have to remember that one button. This button is always go to Photoshop. In Capture One, it's of course do recipe, so I have to make sure that that recipe is active, but in essence, it's go to Photoshop. Okay, so let's say we want to be in Photoshop. So let's say Photoshop. Okay. Now within Photoshop, I have the X key, I have 100%, I have fill, I have the Wacom screen keys, display toggle, precision mode, settings. I have on my inner ring, I have Command, Space, Option, Shift, ring keys. We have actually redo, undo, again the X, to change that one, curves and saturation. So all those shortcuts that you're actually used to are actually now programmed in your keys. So make sure if you use a Wacom Intuos tablet or a Cintiq that you program those keys, because that's incredibly important. Okay, anyway, do we have any questions on Facebook?
Nope.
No questions on Facebook. Do you guys have any more questions? Oh, another question here. Frank, not an X-rite question, but when you have a chance, where did you get the roll of poster signs behind you? In the store. No, we just ordered them online. I don't know the exact name of the company. What's the name of the company, Anouk, where we get those roll-up banners?
Oh, drukwerkdeal.
A drukwerkdeal in the Netherlands.
Very cheap.
They're very, very cheap, and we use a lot of them, and when they go kaput, when they get damaged, we just get a new one. They're not that expensive. Okay, I hope you're going to show full workflow with Capture One someday. If not, your old video is still valid. My old video? Dude, that video is only a few weeks old. We have a video online. If you go to, let me go here to videos. We have a whole video online called Capture One. It's only 15 euros. It's 3.5 hours, totally with Capture One, and also incorporating Lightroom into Capture One, retouching in Capture One. Yes, weeks. It's only a few weeks old. So I think we recorded it. When did we record it? July? Oh, May or July. So it's totally up to date. So don't worry. Okay. Guys, if you really want to do me a pleasure, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And that's absolutely important for us, because that shows our sponsors that you guys love us and that you watch our videos, and make sure that other people also do it. And we really appreciate that. And of course, check my website, because tonight we have that blog post online about our new view on working in the future. And I think that's going to be really interesting and has some eye openers for you guys. And we hope to do more of that. Okay, a few more questions. What's the second page of the color checker for? Do you use it? This is white balance, so that's cool. And this one is the original one that you use for making your profile. This is the one where I'm a little bit in doubt. I never use it, but some people use this for giving a little bit more reddish to the portraits or a little bit more green to the landscapes. I'm not a big fan of that, but in all honesty, yes. Oh, and by the way, these are to find a black color checker back in the studio. I've been bugging X-rite for years to do something like this on their color checkers, because we lost a few. And why do we lose a few? Our whole studio is dark. I couldn't find a color checker because it was in a dark space, so we just had to get a new one. And because we sell them during the workshops, I actually just got a new one, and then 3-4 days later we found him somewhere in a dark corner crying, "Frank, why did you abandon me?" And I didn't, so it was a whole happy family again. And then we had 2 color checkers. Yeah, so we now just put stickers on it that actually emit a little bit of light so we can find them very easily. So make sure you do that. Okay, when will there be a new series, Mastering the Model Shoot? We just released one. We released Creativity not just 2 or 3 months ago. There will be new ones out, there will be a number 4, but that will take a little bit of time because those videos take a lot of time to create. We are actually working on a new Beyond Snaps in New York. And a week is working on that, and we hope to have that ready before Christmas. So that's going to be an awesome one. Okay, let me see. Probably to shoot directly white balance. Yeah, that's the other one. Correct. That's this part. This is the one for white balance. Okay, so I think this is it. Let me see. They should invent a spider holster that holds 1 or 2 cameras, a color checker, and a light meter. And hold up my pants, because I think when I have that much weight, that will actually drop my pants. So that doesn't look right. Okay, finally, guys, and this is also something that I love to do, and we have one more question after this. Make sure, if you like what we do all this stuff for free for you guys. Now, this one is sponsored by X-rite, of course, but everything else we do for free, behind the closed doors, digital classroom, quite frankly. If you want to have access to a closed down Facebook group, if you want to have goodies like portfolio reviews, etc., go onto Patreon and support our work, because that makes it possible to do all this stuff in between and do small digital classrooms extra. Okay, Anna-Week has another question. Then that's actually a very important one, because you guys can win something. And look at this. This is her new... I'm just kidding. This is her new MacBook Pro, and it's so light, it floats. Do you see that? It floats. Anyway, so you can win a 5-day workshop with me. And Anna-Week is there, of course, too. So she's going to zoom in. So you can win a 5-day workshop. Just go to the X-rite website, and you can win 5 days with me, Anna-Week, and our team. It's a one-on-one. It's a Dongle Book Pro. Yes, it is. It's a one-on-one workshop, and it's going to be absolutely awesome. We're going to do street photography. We're going to do travel photography, because we're going to travel around Emmeloord and to Urk. We're going to have dinner. We're going to watch a movie. We're going to have a lot of fun. Your 5 days one-on-one with me and our models. So we're going to do a retouching day. We're going to do a street photography day in Amsterdam. We're going to go to Amsterdam, visit some cool stores. Don't worry, no space cakes. And we're gonna have dinner, watch movies, and of course do a lot of other stuff. So make sure you register. And I believe, when is the workshop, Anna Week? In
March.
In March. It's gonna be awesome. So thank you so very much for, oh, didn't I already won that workshop? No, you didn't, Jan. And make sure you register. Looking forward to go to Emmeloord again next Saturday. Yes, Raymond, we're looking forward to seeing you again. Oh, Anna Week has another question.
Grids did arrive for the Frank Doroff Flashbender.
Oh, for the Dutch people, we now have the grids in for the Frank Doroff Flashbender. That's the latest news. It's hot off the press. Oh, and the other thing is, we're now creating the page. So tonight you can register for the workshop in New York. And of course, also on February 24th and 25th, we have the workshop in Ultimate Weekend in Emmeloord. Okay, I think that's it. We like to thank X-rite a lot. Sorry we sometimes went off topic, but that's the thing when you have a live chat room, because a lot of people want to know things. And don't worry, we're going to do more Digital Classroom episodes just in the week, and we're not going to announce that, so we're just going to surprise you guys. So thank you so very much for watching, guys. I'm Frank Doroff. I'm signing off, and I'm going to enjoy my evening. And you guys start learning lighting, color, everything else, and make sure you're going to be the best photographers ever. Thank you so very much for watching, guys. And thanks again for X-rite for making this possible. Bye, guys. Have fun.